In today's episode, we're going to be talking about crypto custody, web wallets, and a whole lot more. Let's dive in. What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Quantum Resistant Ledger channel. In today's episode, going to be all about cryptocurrency custody, web wallets, and a whole lot more. First off, I want to welcome our routine guest, Strike Attack. It's great to have you back on today's episode.
Hey, thanks for the intro, Ryan. Lots to talk about today. We're gonna dive in, as you said. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we'll see.
So what I want to do today, Strike, if it's cool with you, is I want to talk about cryptocurrency custody. I want to dive into the pros and cons of different types of custody, web wallets, and a few other areas. So for everyone viewing, if it is your very first time viewing a QRL episode, take a moment to pause this video and go to the link below, theqrl.org. Take a few minutes to get an understanding for what our project is about, and then come back to this video and keep watching. If it is not your first rodeo and you've been here before, let's dive right into the good stuff. Strike, I'd love to start out by asking you, can you first, for a minute or two, define what cryptocurrency custody is, and then we will dive into the risks and rewards of each based on what works best for each person.
Yeah, let's do that. The answer to this, in the spirit of blockchain, is more than just a dictionary answer. And I'll explain. So, what is custody? Custody means essentially who has the private keys for the crypto that's held on the blockchain. In other words, that would be, let's just go with Bitcoin, and let's go with the common wallet Bitcoin Core. That's who would have the wallet.dat file and potentially that PIN or password for the file that has the private keys stored in it. He who has the private keys owns the crypto. So that's the dictionary definition. But there's this, in the spirit of blockchain, the definition goes deeper in that what this means is you are your own bank. And that's really difficult for a lot of newcomers to be able to wrap their head around, and rightfully so, because if we want money, we put it in our savings account. In the United States, I don't know how it is in all other countries, but once you deposit your money into a savings account, that becomes a non-collateral loan, of which you no longer legally own those funds. So those are now the bank's funds. It's just it's a loan to them with no collateral from a strictly legal perspective. So the concept of being your own bank, being able to do a transfer of cryptocurrency from peer to peer, meaning from me directly to you or someone else, is still not a mainstream thought process. So if you talk to people that are really familiar with blockchain, there is this aha moment. It's like, oh, I'm my own bank. Now I don't need anyone else. Okay, then they start to kind of get it, and everything starts to click. But let's get back to custody. I just think that that's an important point to emphasize. So there's different types of custody you can have. All custody is where your private key is. Custody can be in the form of like a paper wallet. It can just have a series of phrases, and that can equal a private key through, I think it's the BIP32 standard. You can have a hardware wallet like a ledger, or a Trezor. You can have custody could be a multi-sig wallet, which is like a web interface, and then transactions can only get approved if there's two or more people that have access to the wallet. Multi-sig can be a form of custody. We did a video on that last year. Centralized exchanges like Coinbase and others, and other CEXs, as they're called, are probably the most popular form. As they say in custody, he who has custody has he who has the private key owns the crypto, not your keys, not your crypto. Same thing goes with nodes, not your node, not your rules. So those are the two. Those are some versions of custody. And before your next question, there's the only other thing I want to add is that if on the topic of custody, there's the paper wallet, and that's a form of cold storage for a private key custody solution, because that's not connected to the internet. We call this in networking, we call this an air gap. And centralized exchanges, the larger centralized exchange, in fact, probably most of them, have a combination of cold storage and hot storage. They have hot storage online that's connected to the internet that they can use transactions and do those instantaneously in order to maintain liquidity on the exchange. But they also have, in case of any number of reasons, like an attack or a hack or something like that, they can go to cold storage, up in the safe, and transfer those funds into their database or whatever. So I think that answers most of your question. Go ahead. What else? Okay.
Yeah, no, building on that, I want to kind of, for everyone at home, a lot of people are kind of deciding, people either have a solution that they're currently using, whether that be a hardware wallet, or some people that just have, money on an exchange. Obviously, that's not recommended, as you get more into holding digital assets. Other people go, really extreme with, certain forms of cold storage. You got like, say Zappo or something like that, but you have a wide spectrum. What I want to do is I kind of want to walk through each of them and talk about some of the pros and cons, because I think one really important part that I want to touch on as we go into the next question or two is I want to talk about the importance of choosing a solution that fits your technical understanding. So what I mean by this is, obviously we'll read stuff in, the paper or on the news cycle from years ago of someone, only having a few password attempts left at making sure that they can, access their digital assets. But I think it's really important for people to not reach too far above their technical understanding, because that will actually could be a detriment to accessing that in the future if they're not up to being able to access it. So for a lot of people, maybe just having a hardware wallet solution might be the best option. For Uncle Ricky, or for your Aunt Sue, maybe some form of exchange in some capacity might be the best solution for them, even though there's risks. But can we kind of dive first through the pros and cons of exchanges, then go to hardware wallets, and just talk about that for a few? I think is a really important topic when it comes to custody.
Yeah. So you said two things that were really interesting. When you phrase the first thing, you said central exchanges, and then you said not recommended. But then you followed up with that with, if depending on your level of expertise, that really defines what your custody solution should be. So in what you said is key right there. I think you hit the nail on the head. Your solution, so there is, custody is not one size fits all, unless I'll give you an example. If you're not Aunt Susie, Uncle John, as you put it, if you're not highly technical inclined, a paper wallet and a ledger just might be a little too much, which is fine. This is all about risk. Wherever your wallet is at the end of the day is about risk management. Whoever has the private keys owns the crypto. You cannot lose your private key. Otherwise, there is no way. There is to get the crypto back. There is no one to go to talk to. All right. So I would say depending on your level of expertise. If you're a beginner, if you're a beginner, welcome to crypto. Welcome to blockchain. IMO, I think you've made a good choice. Try Coinbase or one of the larger exchanges that buy Bitcoin with a click of a button, buy Ethereum, that type of thing. If you're an advanced user, definitely recommend. If you're advanced, you have technical expertise. A hardware wallet's definitely the way to go. It's more complicated to use a hardware wallet than it is just to have a username, a password, like on Coinbase, log in and be able to trade crypto. So for beginners, let's say Coinbase. For intermediate users, centralized exchanges probably work. And then you can manage your risk by moving your cryptocurrency off of the centralized exchange to your wallet. And let's say you wanted to make a trade or something like that, you would bounce it back to the centralized exchange, trade, and then bounce it back to your hardware wallet. That's very common. And depending on your digital asset investment strategy, some people just might be long-term holders and just keep it on their wallet and freeze it in ice in a Ziploc in a bag of ice, put it in the freezer, and just never save it for the next 5 to 10 years. Some people, it depends on the strategy.
Yeah. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of segue into a little bit different topic. And then after this next question, I want to segue back into talking about web wallets and different custody solutions there. But before I do this, I want to make an important note that what we're doing for this episode, and we're going to be sprinkling this in for a few upcoming episodes, is Strike and I are going to be sprinkling in a few mnemonic phrases, such as these 2 letters below. So for those of you that have been involved in crypto for a while, you already know what a mnemonic phrase is. So these are the 2 first words of a mnemonic phrase. Throughout the rest of this episode, at sporadic times, we're going to place the rest of that mnemonic phrase throughout the rest of this episode. And whoever, puts the string of that together, you can go to that QRL address based on the mnemonic phrase, and we'll throw a few Quanta in there for you to grab. But if you're not sure what a mnemonic phrase is and you're watching this and you're like, what the heck are these first 2 words of that? First, take a little time after you watch this video, research what a mnemonic phrase, and then come back to this video. But I just wanted to mention that because it's just a fun thing we're doing in a few upcoming episodes. And with that, I want to segue into the next question, and that is on the OCC, the U.S. Treasury, the Office of Comptroller Currency. A few weeks ago, they made a big announcement for the crypto industry, which is allowing banks to use public blockchain and stablecoin networks. So Strike, I want to ask you, why is this a big win for the industry and just the infrastructure in general for crypto?
Yeah, so that's the question. Is crypto down with OCC, right? Yeah. It depends. Let's go to a few different recent developments.
Yep.
We're going to cut over to my screen for a second here. And let's do this. OCC letter on banks using stablecoins acting as blockchain nodes. What does this mean? This means that banks are going to be able to use stablecoins as a function of moving currency around. But it's a little bit more than that too, because if you read through this article right here, it says that the bank is allowed, I'll read this. This letter addresses the legal permissibility of certain payment-related activities that involve the use of newer technologies, including the use of independent node verification networks and stablecoins. Well, what's an INVN, to the OCC? Well, that's a node on the network. What this means is this is giving the go-ahead, from the comptroller of the currency for banks to run their own nodes in order to support, the stablecoins, so they can submit their own transactions, to blockchains. I think that'll probably start out with Ethereum, where most of the stable coins are, is ERC20s. But it doesn't specifically call out Ethereum, but it does say stable coins. So this is interesting. So banks are going to start running crypto nodes in support of the network. This is a little, that is interesting. Now, that being said, I can't help but wonder about, our enQlave project, where we are post-quantum computer securing Ethereum. Could quantum security and a quantum secure ERC20 stablecoin be of value to, national banks across the United States? I think that's an interesting use case, to be able to quantum secure stablecoins, at the bank level for the U.S. and for other parts, of the world as well. So that's an interesting article. That's good news. Let's cut over to the second article here. introducing Anchorage Digital Bank, the first federally chartered digital asset bank. So the Anchorage is pleased to announce that the Office of the Comptroller of Currency has provided conditional approval to our application for a national trust charter, which makes the Anchorage Digital Bank, the National Association, the first federally chartered digital bank in history. So what this means is that this is the go-ahead at the federal level in order to be able to start using crypto. So this by itself is interesting. Now, if you're also paying attention to late last year, on the flip side, you can see that the OCC is trying to walk a little bit of this tightrope narrative. On one hand, you've got the force of blockchain and crypto, and the increasing almost exponential adoption, which is this unmistakable force. Now, on the other hand, you have what's considered, potentially this conflict of interest of the United States being the world reserve currency, right? So you have these two very massive objects that are on a collision course, and you can kind of see the OCC as trying to navigate this field, because one of the other things that was from last year was they put together, I think it was a referendum in which they want centralized exchanges to do KYC, which is know your customer, for any amount. I think it was over 10,000. There was a dollar amount in order to, 10,000 in order to send to a self-hosted wallet, like a Ledger or a paper wallet, or any of the wallets I described earlier, in which you have your private keys, to provide KYC. And what that means is, in order to send to your wallet, you would need to have the centralized exchange. They would need to ask you, per the United States regulatory control, they would need to ask you for your identification, and this, I would say more than 50% of the crypto community created an uproar, especially since it was pushed through with, I think it was like 14 days notice, in early 1900s Federal Reserve Jekyll's Island style, during Christmas holiday. So they've since backed off from that a little bit with the new Biden administration. So they're giving more time on that. It's interesting to watch this take place, because this will affect the space as a whole, not just for the United States, but for other exchanges and other crypto platforms around the world, as they try to make sure that they are not in adherence with U.S. federal law, but don't get sued by the United States. So that's my take.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because it's like treating public blockchains as infrastructure, just as you would have with ACH or Swift. And what I want to kind of segue into now is, since we're on the topic of custody for today's episode, I want to ask, what type of custody solutions does QRL support? So Web Wallet, Ledger, locally hosted. Can you dive into those for a few minutes? And then maybe we could walk through an actual walkthrough of the wallet, and going through from, not knowing how to do that through to setting one up.
Yeah. So there's a few different custody solutions that supported by the project. We have the Web Wallet, as you brought up. You can go onto the website and you can open up your wallet quite easily. We'll put these links in the description below. You can download the wallet and self-host the wallet if you don't want to, send your keys over the web to a web server. So you can run it yourself. And then you could also run a node. You could run a node on your LAN, your home network, plus your own wallet, which would allow you an interface directly to your node if you wanted. And then that node would handle the transactions, proxy the transactions on your behalf. We also have support for the Ledger Nano series. It's not Ledger Live support. In other words, you don't manage your QRL from within the Ledger app, but what you do is you would take your Ledger Nano and plug it in, and you would go to the website, and then you'll select Ledger, and then enter in your PIN.
Yep.
And it'll interface through a USB API on your computer and open your wallet that way. We have the mobile app that makes everything real convenient and available.
Could you walk us through the Web Wallet now, Strike, if that's cool with you?
Yeah. let's do that. We'll cut over to my screen here and let's do a web wallet walkthrough. All right, here's the wallet screen. This is where you can create a QRL wallet. What you'll do is go to wallet.theqrl.org/open. Make sure it says HTTPS here so that your web session is encrypted. And we're going to go to new wallet. Now I recommend you're going to need a passphrase for the .json file if you want to save it. I recommend going into passwordsgenerator.net and just follow this process that I'm doing here. So this site will generate the password on your device. As you can see, it doesn't send it over the net clear text. So just generate a password here. It doesn't matter. Make sure it's strong enough that it's like 16 password length. And let's do this. I'm going to save this. Okay, and I'm going to go to QRL Wallet. I'm just going to paste that in. This is your tree height. This is how many one-time signature pairs you have, one-time signature pairings you have. So what this means is if you're newer to the project, this is how many times you can perform a transaction from your wallet or an output. If you're still really new to quantum blockchain quantum security, think of this as how many times you can send QRL. You can receive to your wallet as many times as you want, and it doesn't use up one of these. But if you initiate a transaction, these are the limits. The only difference is how long it takes to generate on your PC. So I'm going to do 4096. That's thousands of transactions that you can do, and obviously before you get to one, you just want to be able, if you ever get to one, you want to be able to move your funds to a different wallet. So this is one of the costs of being provably quantum secure. So here's the hash function. This is what makes the wallet quantum secure, is this hashing. So all of these are quantum secure. You can pick one. If you don't have a preference, just stick to the default. It doesn't change anything. It's not going to change anything for you. You're not going to notice as far as from a user experience. So we're going to create a wallet here, and what it's doing is it's generating that on your PC. We should see you see a spike up here. You can see because that's generating the wallet because it's doing it locally. And next is the disclaimer. Of course, we will save the details on this page. So what you need to do is back this up. What I would recommend printing it, because you don't want to. You have a couple different options. You can print this whole screen, and the advantage of that is besides writing it down, is you're not going to make any. There won't be any mistakes if you just print it. The difference is it's potentially sent over clear text over your local area network. It's highly unlikely that anyone's sniffing traffic on your local network. But also some hard drives, some printers, especially corporate printers, have hard drives. You may want to avoid sending. I definitely would avoid sending your wallet to a corporate printer. Don't print this at work. If you print it at home and you're using your LaserJet, it should be fine. Your other option is if you want to be strictly paper wallet, which is really the most secure. It's one of the most secure. It's a balance, like we talked about earlier in the video. You can just write this phrase down, and that's all you need to be able to recover your wallet. As long as you have this phrase, you can always recover your wallet. In fact, as long as you have the hex seed, you can always recover your wallet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this encrypted file, and the encrypted file is another way to open your wallet. So between the mnemonic phrase back here, the hex seed, and this encrypted file, you always have a way to open your wallet. Those are three ways. Okay, so this is a wallet .json file. Okay, you can use this to open your QRL wallet on the next screen. If you do this, you use the JSON file, I recommend that you go to KeePass. And this is a secure password software. It's freeware. And what you can do is you can actually take your JSON file and put it inside KeePass along with your other passwords, and you can store a file in here. But if you're not comfortable with these extra steps, just print this like we talked about. Okay. So let's back this up. And we're going to open wallet. So here is the open wallet screen. You can see it here on the left. And we're just going to do a simple wallet open. And we're going to use the mnemonic phrase. I copy it in my clipboard. We're going to click unlock wallet. Here we are. Up here is your public address. You can use this to, this is what people will send to. So if you want to send, it's send and receive over here. You could type in an address here. Let's say it was your friend's address. Someone you want to send Quanta to, put it here, type in the amount, confirm, send. If you want to receive, you'll notice that this address here is the same address up here. This is this is the address that someone else would send to. That's it. It's as simple as that. And we're going to do a future video on how to use the Ledger device, and we'll get into some more advanced topics as far as custody regarding how to save your private key. But this is a simple explanation. So this is what I would do. This is what I recommend.
So Strike, we've just gone over and you've shown us the step-by-step of going through a web wallet and setting that up. Now, with that, when a quantum computer does get to a point where it's capable enough to put our digital assets at risk, can you explain briefly what the QRL and what enQlave will provide here when that time does come?
Sure. So I believe in more choices are a good thing. And with our project and our team, you're going to have a couple different choices on how to go quantum computer secure. We have our native blockchain, our own chain, not an ERC20. Doesn't run on Ethereum. It runs on our our QRL nodes. It's been running mainnet for 2 years successfully. You'll have that native coin, the QRL coin, and you can purchase that if you want to add to your quantum computer hedge threat. The other thing is we have our enQlave project. If you haven't heard of our enQlave project, we're putting together a smart contract platform on Ethereum in which you can quantum secure your Ethereum, and you'll be able to quantum secure a select subset of ERC20s in the near future. So this in the Ethereum 2.0 roadmap, quantum security isn't part of 2.0 for Ethereum. That's coming out hopefully later this year. And if you look at how long it took the team, and rightfully so, because that's such a huge blockchain, to put together and test and even just get the sandbox for Ethereum 2.0 to come up. We're talking about years here. So the quantum resistant ledger team, we're trying to bring post quantum digital asset security to Ethereum in order to help people hedge against that quantum computer threat. If Ethereum were to go quantum secure, this would be a huge undertaking, because Ethereum has the same technical and theoretical vulnerabilities as Bitcoin, based on factorization and asymmetric encryption, which is public-private key encryption, which is the ability to for a quantum computer to use Shor's algorithm and factorize large numbers. So, point being, Ethereum and Bitcoin fall into the same umbrella as not really being quantum secure ready. So we're bringing that to Ethereum. We're excited about that project, and we want to make a difference. So.
Yeah. And if you haven't already learned about enQlave, make sure that you go to this link below, this URL, enqlave.io. Check it out, do a little bit of research, homework on your own. And I know that this episode is kind of filled with a lot of information on custody, walking through a web wallet, and just information in general. But Strike and I, we appreciate you watching this episode. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you subscribe. That way, each week when Strike and I come out with all sorts of industry-related topics, whether it be post-quantum digital asset security, stuff on QRL, enQlave, stuff related to Ethereum, Bitcoin, DeFi, you name it, you're going to be up to date when we come out with videos each week. And as always, if you have questions or you have a topic that you think that would be interesting or notable to cover, don't hesitate to reach out to us, whether that be directly within our email or within Telegram, Discord. And until next week's episode, Strike, I really appreciate you not only doing a web wallet walkthrough, but kind of diving into custody, because regardless if it's day one for you within cryptocurrency and you got the bug, or if you've been going down the rabbit hole for 5 to 10 years, it's always important to discuss the best solutions, because solution that's right for me or for you, it's going to be different for everyone. And it's important to discuss and, bring up and elevate the industry as a whole. So Strike, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. We will see you all in next week's episode, and you keep those digital assets secure, and we will see you next week.